You know how we're always talking about AI and education? Well, this new research, it's really fascinating. It really gets into how students are using, those Gen AI tools for language learning. It's a 2025 study from the Computers in Education, Artificial Intelligence Journal.
Okay.
The title is, get this, Exploring the Potential of Gen AI for Personalized English Teaching. Learners' Experiences and Perceptions.
Wow.
They focused on first-year English for academic purposes students in Hong Kong.
So college level.
Yeah, think college-level writing, presentations, that kind of thing.
Got it.
The cool thing is they combined a survey of 129 students with in-depth interviews of 12 students.
That's a really interesting mix. You get the big picture and the personal stories.
Exactly. So ready to see what they found?
Absolutely. Let's dive in.
Okay, so first off, is it just ChatGPT everyone's using, or are things a bit more diverse than that?
Oh, it's definitely more diverse. I mean, the study found that a whopping 66.7% of the students are already using Gen AI in some form for language learning, but they're using a really surprisingly wide range of tools,
Really?
You've got your usual suspects like Grammarly and Quillbot, but also things like Speaking AI, Bard, Poe, and even some less common ones. I hadn't even heard of a few of them.
So it's not just ChatGPT running the show. There's a whole ecosystem out there. What does that tell us about, how students are approaching language learning these days?
Well, I think it shows a real eagerness to explore new options and find what works best for them. It's not a one-size-fits-all situation anymore.
Yeah.
Grammarly was the most popular tool in this study.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 55 students used it. Quillbot came in second with 19. But the sheer variety is what's really fascinating to me.
And how are they actually using these different tools? Is it just for polishing up final drafts, or are they incorporating it into, other parts of their learning process?
Oh, it's definitely not just about polishing. Some are using it for what the researchers call developmental skills.
Developmental skill.
Yeah, basically it means improving abilities they already have. So think of it like using Gen AI to get better at structuring essays.
Right.
But then others are using it for compensatory skills.
Okay.
And that's where it's helping them with tasks they might struggle with, like relying on Gen AI to catch grammar errors so they can focus on their ideas.
That's a really interesting distinction. So which language skills are being impacted the most by this?
Writing is the big one.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's not too surprising, though. 60% of the students said they use Gen AI for writing-related tasks, whether it's identifying errors, brainstorming, finding sources, or even getting help with citations.
It really seems like a writer's best friend.
Yeah.
But it's starting to branch out into other areas of language learning, too. What about things like reading?
Yeah, there's some interesting use there, too. Students are using Gen AI for summarizing and paraphrasing sources.
Huh. What about listening?
Even fewer used it for listening, like transcribing podcasts or videos.
Did any students use Gen AI for speaking practice?
A few actually mentioned using it for simulated conversations and getting feedback on their pronunciation.
Wow. That's pretty wild. Having a 24/7 conversation partner, even just for practicing specific skills, makes you wonder if it'll see a future where Gen AI tools support every part of learning a language.
It's a possibility for sure. I mean, the applications, they seem endless, and as the technology gets more advanced, who knows what we'll see.
So we've seen how they're using Gen AI, but do they actually, find it helpful?
Oh, they do. The researchers had them rate how useful they found Gen AI for different skills, and the ratings were, pretty positive overall.
Right.
Grammar was the highest rated skill, with an average score of 3.92 out of 5.
Wow.
Writing came in a close second at 3.88. And then vocabulary and reading also scored well at 3.71 and 3.50.
Okay.
And remember how we talked about 66.7% of the students using these tools already?
Yeah.
Well, a vast majority of them, 98 students for grammar and 89 for writing, they strongly agreed that Gen AI helped them improve.
Those are some really impressive ratings. What aspects of Gen AI do you think are driving, those positive perceptions?
I think the personalized support is a major factor. These aren't just generic tools, They can adapt to each student's individual needs and learning style.
Yeah.
And that level of tailoring seems to be making a real difference.
So it's great to hear that they're finding Gen AI so useful. But is this just a passing fad, or are they planning to, stick with these tools long term?
Well, that's an important question, right? It's one thing to try something new, but does it actually change how you approach learning in the long run?
Yeah.
Well, the study looked at that. And a striking 86.05% of students said they intended to keep using GenAI for learning.
Wow. Okay. That's pretty strong evidence that it's more than just a shiny new toy for them. It's actually like becoming part of their toolkit.
Right.
What about outside the classroom? Did the study look at whether GenAI sparked any interest in independent learning?
Yeah, they did. And the findings there were even more encouraging. 84.5% of students said that using GenAI actually made them more interested in learning English outside of their assigned coursework.
That's really cool.
And almost 96% wanted to learn how to use these tools even better to really deepen their understanding of English.
That's fantastic. It's not just about, making the grade. It's about fostering a genuine love of learning. Sounds like GenAI could play a big role in promoting lifelong language learning.
I think so too. Imagine a world where people are constantly motivated to learn and explore new languages because they have these personalized tools at their fingertips.
It's like having a personal language tutor always ready to help you, level up your skills.
Exactly.
Pretty powerful. But even with all this positivity, there are bound to be some challenges, right? Did the research highlight any drawbacks or concerns about using GenAI for language learning?
Of course, no tool is perfect, and the researchers were careful to explore, both sides of the coin. In those in-depth interviews, some students talked about getting feedback from GenAI that felt either overwhelming or a bit off the mark.
Yeah, I could see that.
Sometimes it just didn't quite grasp what they were aiming for.
Right. As advanced as AI is becoming, it's still not a mind reader.
Right.
There's always that chance it'll misinterpret things or give advice that doesn't quite fit the situation.
Exactly.
Did the students have any other concerns?
Well, some worried about becoming too reliant on the tools, losing those core skills if they depend on GenAI to do all the heavy lifting.
That's a valid concern, really, with any powerful technology. It's that balance between using tools to our advantage and not letting them become crutches,
Right.
Were there any, specific examples of students encountering this reliance issue?
Yeah, a few students felt that GenAI sometimes struggled to understand their personal writing style or the specific context of their assignments. It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. Sometimes the technology just isn't flexible enough to handle those nuances.
It's a good reminder that GenAI is still in its early stages.
Definitely.
While it's incredibly promising, we need to approach it with a healthy dose of caution and be mindful of those limitations. One thing that stood out to me was that the study had students compare GenAI tools like ChatGPT to traditional grammar checkers, like Grammarly and even Microsoft Word.
Oh, interesting.
What did they find?
That's a really interesting comparison, and it highlights the strengths and weaknesses of each approach. Students appreciated the speed and simplicity of traditional tools, especially for catching quick errors. They're great for a quick scan to catch typos or basic grammar mistakes.
Right, those classic spell checkers and grammar checkers.
Yeah.
Handy for surface-level polishing. But I'm guessing GenAI offered something more.
Yeah, what really impressed students was GenAI's ability to not only point out errors, but to actually explain them and help them understand the underlying grammar rules. It's like having a teacher built right into the tool.
Oh, wow, that's a game changer.
Yeah.
It's one thing to know you made a mistake.
Right.
It's another to understand why it's a mistake.
Exactly.
Do you recall any specific examples of students having these aha moments with GenAI?
There was one anecdote where a student talked about how ChatGPT helped them understand prepositions and articles in a way that traditional tools never could. It broke down these tricky grammar concepts in a way that just clicked for them.
That's a really powerful example of how GenAI can shift the focus from simply correcting mistakes to actually learning from them.
Exactly. It has the potential to make language learning much more about understanding the why behind the rules, not just memorizing them.
We've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
From the sheer variety of GenAI tools to the positive and negative experiences students are having. What are some key takeaways we can glean from all this?
Well, first and foremost, it's clear that GenAI is already having a significant impact on how students learn languages, especially in areas like grammar and writing. The personalized support is a major draw, and it's leading to a noticeable increase in student motivation, which could have, long-term benefits for language learning.
That's a really encouraging finding. But we also need to be aware of the potential downsides, right?
Absolutely. The concerns about overwhelming feedback, over-reliance on the tools, and the need for GenAI to better understand individual writing styles and contexts, those are all valid and need to be addressed as this technology continues to evolve.
It seems like we're at a, a real turning point
Yeah.
with these GenAI tools offering so much potential,
Right.
but also needing careful consideration as we move forward. What guidance did the researchers offer, like for those of us in the language education world who are trying to figure all this out?
They had some insightful recommendations, both for language educators and institutions.
Okay.
They really stressed the importance of professional development for educators.
It's not just about having these tools available, it's about understanding how to use them effectively and responsibly.
So it's about empowering teachers to be, informed decision makers when it comes to integrating GenAI into their teaching.
Exactly. They also suggested designing lesson plans that use GenAI as a supplement to traditional teaching, not a replacement.
Okay.
It's about finding that sweet spot where technology and human interaction work together to create a richer learning experience.
That makes a lot of sense. Technology should enhance the human element of teaching, not eliminate it. What about for the students themselves? Did the researchers have any recommendations on how to prepare them for this new world of, AI-assisted language learning?
They really emphasize the importance of teaching students how to use these tools effectively and ethically. It's not enough to just give them access, right?
Right.
We need to equip them with those critical thinking skills to evaluate the feedback they're getting.
And use it wisely.
Yeah, exactly. It's about fostering a sense of digital literacy, helping students become discerning users of technology, not just passive consumers. Were there any suggestions specifically for institutions like universities or language schools?
The researchers recommended conducting needs assessments
Okay.
to pinpoint the specific language learning challenges that GenAI could actually help address. It's about using the right tool for the right job and making sure that technology is truly serving a purpose.
That's a really practical approach, making sure that GenAI adoption is driven by real needs, not just, the hype. Did they have any other recommendations for institutions?
They highlighted the importance of ongoing professional development.
For instructors?
Yeah, for instructors. Because this technology is evolving so rapidly, it's crucial for educators to stay up to date on the latest advancements and best practices.
It's all about creating a culture of continuous learning, not just for the students, but for the teachers as well. Anything else?
One final point they stressed was the need for clear guidelines on the responsible use of GenAI, covering issues like academic integrity, data privacy, and, finding that balance between technology and human interaction.
It's so crucial to have those ethical considerations, front and center as we integrate these powerful tools into our classrooms. Well, this has been a truly fascinating deep dive.
It has.
Into the world of GenAI and language learning. At the beginning, we were talking about how you're interested in AI and education.
Yes.
And I think this study offers some really valuable insights into how these tools are already reshaping the learning landscape, especially for language learners.
I think it's a really exciting time to be involved in this field. We're only just scratching the surface of what's possible with GenAI, and I can't wait to see how it continues to evolve.
Me too. And for you listening, we'd love for you to consider this. As GenAI becomes even more sophisticated, how do you envision it impacting the future of language learning? And what role will teachers play in this new landscape? It's a question worth pondering. The future is full of possibilities, and it will be fascinating to see how it all unfolds.